You're listening to the Life with Old Dogs podcast, and I'm your host, Dawn Mimnaugh, primary caretaker of all of our wonderful senior German Shepherds right here at Woody's Place Senior German Shepherd Sanctuary. This week's podcast episode is brought to you by the Life with Old Dogs School. Are you struggling to care for your aging dog? Are you looking for guidance on how to make their golden years as happy and comfortable as possible? We can help you with that. Introducing the Life with Old Dogs School, your ultimate solution to providing the best care for your furry friend in their senior years. We understand that caring for aging dogs can be challenging, but with our expert guidance and support, you can ensure that they live happy and fulfilling lives. As your loyal companions get older, their needs change, and it can be overwhelming to try to navigate these changes on your own. That's why we created the Life with Old Dogs School, to empower senior dog parents like yourself with invaluable insight, expert advice, and proven strategies to enhance your senior dog's quality of life. From nutrition tips and exercise routines to palliative care and emotional support, we've got you covered. Our first course on palliative care is available now. This is a self-paced course that you can start and finish at your leisure, and it's yours to refer back to whenever you need. We know you love your senior dog and want to do what's best for him or her, so be sure to check out the Life with Old Dogs School. I'll be sure to include the link in the show notes. Weird. Okay, there we go. Megan and I'm here today with Megan Spaulding of the Finger Lakes German Shepherd Rescue, and we have been having the worst time getting this podcast started. Honest to God, it never happens, but it is today. Megan, I'm so sorry. I apologize.
It must be me. It's just me.
No, I don't think so.
If I didn't have bad luck, I'd have no luck at all.
No, I'm so sorry. I just feel awful. It's taken us like almost 30 minutes just to get the technical difficulty issues straightened out, but we are good. We are good right now. So all joking aside, I'm here today with Megan Spaulding of German Shepherd Rescue of the Finger Lakes. And I'm so happy to have her here today. I follow along with Megan and her organization on social media. They are only about 2 hours away from us. Megan, welcome. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your organization?
Yep. I'm the founder of the organization. Myself and my partner, the co-founder, Patrick, we started the rescue when another rescue closed that we used to volunteer for. I volunteered there for 6 years, and Patrick volunteered there for a couple of years before the owner got ill and she had to close her doors. We took the remaining dogs. There were 4 dogs that still were unhomed when she closed her doors, and she was fearful that she was going to have to euthanize them due to her health reasons. So we took those dogs in. We were not a rescue then. She closed in 2019, and we got established in November of 2020, but we didn't start rescuing dogs until January of 2021. Just so we didn't have to do tax stuff for 2 months. So we were able to get those 4 dogs placed within that year period before we were a rescue, just by going through their social media. We took over their Facebook page. So we were able to still have the following and get applications in. And even though, we didn't have the funding, we just took care of it ourselves in order to get them homes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, that's basically quite a few organizations do start that way, just bootstrapping it until they get established. With a 501c3, or, even if they don't have a 501c3, get their name out there, establish themselves as a reputable organization. And I don't think when people say, oh, I want to start a rescue or a sanctuary, I don't think they realize the financial obligation they're going to have right off the bat. I think they think that just because they're pulling dogs or, they take a dog from someone and say, I'm going to save this dog, they think they're just going to go online and the money is going to pour in.
Yeah.
And you and I think both know that is not the case at all.
Yeah,
A lot
especially with
comes
this
out of your own
economy.
pocket. Yes.
Yeah, this economy is just really tough. And then just the crisis that the animal world is in right now with the record euthanasias and people just abandoning animals due to no rescues having any room to take them. I mean, the statistics I read the other day about the record euthanasias and the abandonment, they're talking 4,000 a month people are abandoning because there's just no room for any animals in any shelters, and so that they're just moving and leaving them to their own devices, and it's hard.
It really is. It really is. And if you pull back to like the 10,000 foot aerial view, there's only this much money coming in from donations, and there's so many organizations vying for that donation money, and that donation money is not nearly enough to cover the homeless animal population, not nearly enough. And I was just talking with someone the other day saying, for as much as our government has its hands in our personal lives, why is there not some sort of legislation in place to address this homeless animal population where, if you want to get a dog, a cat, or something along those lines, how about you have to take a class first on how to care for that animal and understand the commitment of caring for that animal, and somehow have some sort of licensing in place for that. I mean, you have to have a license to fish, for goodness sakes.
Yeah.
But anybody can get a dog or a cat and, call it good. And then if those people can't meet that obligation and they ended up surrendering it for whatever the reason, then maybe they don't get another compassion animal. They're not allowed to get another compassion animal for a certain amount of time, if ever, depending on why they got rid of the dog. I don't know. That's easier said than done. I get it, but I just can't believe that anyone can go get a dog or a cat and that's it.
Yeah. Oh, especially a high energy breed like we deal with, that's people get puppies because they're cute and they don't research what's behind the dog. So know your breed, know what you're getting yourself into as far as, what comes with adopting a German Shepherd. And I just use that because that's what you and I do, but it's any breed. Research your breed, research if they're working lines, research the exercise they're going to need, research the vet costs that it's going to cost you to have these dogs, research the hereditary problems that these dogs have that you may run into, that the cost of it. I mean, but the behavioral side of it, I mean, research what training costs. It's, if you don't know how to train an animal, you need to know those things, especially breeds like the German Shepherds that will try to take over the leadership role from you. And you're not a leader. You haven't had a dog before. I mean, that's a huge, huge thing.
It is, and it does not come naturally for everyone. I mean, there are folks out there with good intentions who do research all that, but that specifically for the German Shepherd, who have or let's say even a Border Collie too, who have never had an intelligent working breed like that, and they find themselves overwhelmed. I know folks who even. Sorry, I got to shut my window here. I'm actually a little chilly. Even with the older German Shepherds, actually, because we do 8 years and older, but I've actually had them say, well, I didn't know they were still going to be this active at 8 years old. Like there was just going to be some magic switch and
drop
they
off.
And then all of a sudden they were just going to become a couch potato. And it just is mind-boggling to me that people don't seem to understand, hey, this is a lifelong commitment. And this dog, this German Shepherd here, it may be active until the day it dies. And you have to be prepared for that.
Yeah. I mean, Wynn is right here with me. I work all crazy hours, so I don't get home usually till 7:15, 7:30 at night. But last night I didn't get home until 8:30 at night. It's already dark then. And she still needs exercise, whether I'm tired or don't feel like throwing the ball or whatever the case may be. She's a year old and she needs constant, the exercise for the day. Otherwise, she's not happy. And she will let you know she's not happy. So I bought a motion street light to bring out here. And this is the yard that we just got put in this year for the dogs. So I could run them, without them seeing a rabbit or something and taking off.
Yeah.
So I bought a motion street light so I can be out here at all hours to exercise them, because it doesn't matter what time I get home. I have a commitment to them, and that's something I have to fulfill.
Right. And that is, now we do sanctuary and you do rescue. So these guys stay here, and I'm saying them because they're right here on their beds beside me. But it is a commitment, and there are well-intended folks out there who we get emails all the time. How do you start a sanctuary? I want to run a sanctuary. Tell me what it's like to run a sanctuary. And you just said something that resonates so much with me. You said, no matter how you feel, you still have to get out there and do it. Interact, exercise the dogs because you committed to them. And it's the same for me, whether I'm having a bad day, whether I had COVID this year for 2.5 weeks. And, I'm back
on your page. I saw you sick and out there taking care of them.
Yeah. Back in 2012, my appendix ruptured and I was sick as a dog. I was in the hospital for 3 days. And the day I got out, I was right back to caring for 6 German Shepherds in my care. Like sometimes, and I'm sure you can relate, Megan, sometimes you are just like, oh my God, dead to the world, but you're throwing the covers off the bed because you got to get up and take care of that beautiful baby that's behind you because you committed to her. And that is like one of the pictures that I paint when I get emails or questions about how do you start? I want to do that. It's like, well, you damn well better love it, because if you don't even bother, because you're going to be out of it. Yeah. It's 24/7, right?
It's all of your free time.
It's all of your time. Right. Because, and I say all of your time because you have a job, correct? Aside from the rescue.
I work approximately 55 hours a week. So
wow.
That's why I only have, I just have one with me from, until she goes, and then I'll get another one. Every once in a while, I'll get 2. And when that happens, I don't even see my husband. Like I'm out 2 hours before I go to work because I exercise them each an hour before I go to work. And then I go to work for 10 plus hours. And then I come home and exercise them for an hour when I get home. So if I have 2, it's 2 hours on each end of my day. So if I have 1, it's just 1 hour on each end of my day. And thankfully, my husband is good enough to, play with him during the daytime when he's around. So yeah, it's a lot. It is a lot. Not only that, it's the paperwork behind it. It's not
the
even
administrative aspect.
Just your time as far as playing with the dogs. It's the paperwork, the answering emails, responding to people that want to surrender, responding to rescues that want you to take their dogs. It's a lot. It's a lot
really
emotionally too. Not just physically, it's a lot emotionally.
It is. It definitely is. I mean, how could it not be, really? Because you have the dogs in your care that you have to tend to, and you're emotionally, mentally, and physically vested in. But then you get these emails of these dogs in need, and you see all their faces and you hear all the stories, and going to be destroyed at 12 o'clock on Sunday, and you immediately get a knot in your stomach, like, oh my God, how can I help this dog? Because if not, like, you have a knee-jerk reaction, it's gonna die if I can't help that dog. But something I've come to realize in all the years that I've been doing rescue is you have to learn to say no. And there's no way that you're going to be able to save every single one. And all you can do is right there, what's in front of you, and that you're capable of doing both, physically, mentally, emotionally, and financially.
Yes.
Because I'm sure you've probably heard stories, and maybe you even know of a couple by now, but as we were talking off camera, I've been doing rescue since 2000. So literally 23 years I've been doing rescue. And I know of at least 4 different rescues, reputable rescues, who were doing wonderful work, who got themselves in trouble over hoarding situations.
Yeah.
Didn't have the finances, the authorities were called, they were shut down, they were completely embarrassed, raked over the coals, the dogs were all taken away from them. And it was a horrible situation, for everyone involved, because these people were well-intended people who didn't know how to say no and just got in completely over their heads. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's tough. I think it is. It is difficult to say no, but you do have to know your limits. And that's, part of mine. When I do up to 2 dogs, I am like a zombie because it takes all of my time. So it's hard for me. I mean, just last week I was contacted by a New York City shelter to save a dog that was being euthanized, and I had to look through his medical paperwork and look through everything. And okay, well, you got to let me know by noon today whether you can take him or not, because if you don't, he's going to be destroyed. And I just you got to just take in all of the information and see if it's a dog that you can assist with what resources you have as far as money and space and time. And if, they may be adoptable, may not be adoptable. If it's a dog that has, aggression issues, they are very hard to place. It is very hard to find somebody that knows how to deal with even minor behavioral issues, let alone major behavioral issues with a dog. The adoptions are so few and far between right now, and we have had dogs in our care that we have taken from the New York City shelters that have behavioral issues that we have had for over a year. And they are with us until they're with us, they have their space. We take care of them every day. And one female was Coco. She was our pure white shepherd. She was dropped there at 11 years old because her people were moving. And how do you drop an 11-year-old dog at a high kill shelter and think that she's going to make it? Right. She's not, unless a rescue pulls her. And she's 12 and a half now. She's still with us. And she's still running and playing with her toys and running the best she can. Playing with her toys.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand that. Running like an old dog run.
Yeah. The bunny hop on the back.
Right. That's what they do. A lot of them do start to bunny hop. And we hear stories like that all the time about the moving or having kids or suddenly allergic, or I didn't know it was going to shed this much, but a lot of the time it's basically, for us, it's the owner has passed away and the person was very devoted to the dog, loved their dog, and now no one in the family can take the dog or want the dog. And we've actually been pretty lucky with the dogs that we bring in. I have to be really selective because here they live in a community setting,
right?
Where we don't have crates. Yeah, we don't have cages or anything like that, and we have gates set up around the house. But and we've had some situations, and I'm sure you have too, where folks who are surrendering the dog, or even other rescues, I hate to say this, or shelters misrepresent the dog with the behavior problem. Yeah. And we've had a few here now that were not, and I'm not even going to mention any names, but we've had a few that were not really, a ideal candidate for our program here. And we were basically lied to just so we would take them. So now, moving forward, I've talked with my husband about it. We have to be really selective and make sure that this dog is actually going to go with the flow, because, I'm in my 50s. He's in his 60s now. We're just getting older. Volunteers are so hard to come by.
Oh my God.
And, I'm getting a little too old to be breaking up German Shepherd dog fights. I really am. So it's scary. It gets really scary because, yourself, I'm sure you've had to wrangle a few German Shepherds. They mean business. And if you're in the way, you're getting hit. So
yeah, we recently had one here. Actually, my husband isn't so familiar with. He takes the dogs out, but he had one in a the fenced-in yard, and then the other one on a leash, and she was on a long lead, and he didn't latch the gate all the way. She pushed the gate open and got the other dog into it.
Yeah,
he had never really been in a dog fight himself. He wasn't raised with dogs or anything like that, so it was traumatic for him.
It is very traumatic.
He called me at work. He was just beside himself. He got bit in the thumb, so there was a little carnage for him as well. But everybody was fine. Everybody was good. When he called me, he did everybody was on death's door because he was scared to death. But everybody was good.
Oh my goodness. But it is scary and it's traumatizing. And if it happens one too many times, you can end up getting post-traumatic stress seriously from it because you're always waiting for that next shoe to drop. So that's an issue, making sure you do. And you know what? Also, there's the insurance purposes as well. We've never had to file a claim, but it is actually in our paperwork for our insurance that we are not to take any known aggressive dogs.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when someone says that, hey, this is a great dog, but it has a bite history, can't help you. Sorry, I can't lose my insurance.
Right.
So, and as you know now, doing rescue for as long as you have, there are plenty good dogs out there that don't have behavioral problems that are easily placed. And, they're the ones that you try to focus on. I mean, you want to, like I said, help them all, but they're the ones you try to focus on because you'll be able to move them a little bit easier and not end up with this dog who's got these problems that is just going to take up that space, like you're saying, that very limited space already. Yeah.
Yeah. When we first started, we actually were taking on any dog that we had the time and space for, bite history or no bite history. It didn't really matter for us because we know how to handle the dogs. I actually I was laid off from my old job before they downsized. And during that time, I actually worked with a trainer to learn to train for that 6 months. So I learned a lot. I thought I was pretty savvy with shepherds, having them my whole life, but really it helped me understand the dog's point of view a lot better. And in turn helped me help them. So, I mean, it really is eye-opening.
So you've always had German Shepherds. Is that how you got into German Shepherd rescue?
Since I was young, since I was out on my own. So I've had them for about 25 years. It was my first dog when I moved out on my own, was a Shepherd Chow mix. And then my next one after that was a pure Shepherd. And I just love the breed. I love the loyalty, and the energy and the drive. When I was 20, I was, out moving around a hell of a lot more than I am now, but wasn't working as much and had a lot more time. But they just resonate with me as far as the loyalty and just, they're just great dogs. They're just so well-rounded as a breed if you know how to navigate them.
Yes, it's true. It's true. And I hear what you're saying about navigate them, and it is because of their intelligence. When you have a dog like a German Shepherd who's a thinking dog, you can see the wheels in their heads spinning. You have to be one step ahead of them at all times. Even the older dogs that I have here, I mean, I have Brutus here. He's 12 years old. He's a Doberman Shepherd mix. And I'm telling you, he doesn't miss a trick. He's a great boy, but he doesn't miss a trick. If I leave anything on the counter, he knows. I have cameras set up all over, and I've watched him on camera wait till I leave the room, and he looks and he looks, and then all of a sudden he goes from, I'm like, oh, he is calculating. Look at him.
How long is she going to be gone? How much time do I have?
Seriously. I mean, they're just we have in all of our fences, we have a fenced in dog yard like you, but it's a chain link fence, and it's got like 1, 2, 3, 4 different gates. And then all of our goats, chickens, and ducks are fenced in an area. And then our whole property is fenced in with 4-foot welded wire fence. And I have to put like padlocks through the gates here in the chain link dog area, because they lift the gate up to get out.
we learned that early on too. When we first started our rescue, my partner actually has his kennels in his garage. He has turned that into a 4 kennel space, and it didn't start off as a 4 kennel space. We added as we had to emergency rescue dogs. Yeah. We started off as just a 3 kennel total, and now we have 6 kennels. But we try to keep it at 5 dogs or less, just in case we have any returned. You know, obviously responsible rescue should be taking their dogs back if there's any issues. So we learned that with one of the dogs we had lifted the gate, and then one of the neighbors called and said, you know, is this your dog? And we were like, oh my God, what the heck? So now, yes, everything gets padlocked or clipped. They're all secure now, so they can't. They are so smart. They figure it out. Crazy.
They really do. So so are you a solo entity, or do you have a volunteer foster base, or how are you set up?
We right now are still working on getting insurance. So we've only been open for it's almost been 3 years. So we have been working on getting insurance for the past, I would say 6 months. You go through this whole rigmarole with one place, and it takes them 2 months to tell you no. So you fill out all the paperwork and everything else. But so we do not have fosters as of yet, because we will not get fosters until we have insurance. And then the volunteers, we do have 2 remote volunteers. One does our email for any type of courtesy postings. She screens them to see if it is a dog that we will courtesy post, because there are certain things. If a dog is not spayed or neutered, we will not courtesy post them, because we do not want to add to the problem of accidental pregnancies. So we won't spay, or we won't post a dog that's not spayed or not neutered. So she goes through and screens them. And if it's a dog that we will post, we post them, we get all the information we can from them. Even if there is bite history, if there is some type of issues, those have to be, shown. And those, we like to have everybody crystal clear on what they're getting, even though that's not even from us. It's just a courtesy post. We just like everything to be crystal clear. We want you to know exactly what you're getting into with any type of dog that you get from us.
Sure.
If it has separation anxiety, it's the way that it's going to work successful for the dog and for you. Less time the dog is returned, less trauma for the dog. So,
right. You don't want to set anyone up for failure. So you do your due diligence, and that is what a responsible rescue or sanctuary, has to do.
Yeah. And then we have one amazing woman that does all of our processing all of our applications, which is a huge job. If you've never had that process before, it's calling all the references and doing vet checks and all that. I mean, it's a lot of work. So she does all of that. She's great. She's really, really great.
Yeah. If you can find good volunteers, you hang on to them. That's the key. We seem to have a slew of volunteers, and then they kind of piddle away, and then we have another slew of volunteers, and one thing that I've kind of realized is, and I guess it's because we do the senior German Shepherds and we deal with death a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people can't handle that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can't handle that. And I get it. I totally get it because it's not for everyone. Um, and it's okay. It's all right. I don't want anybody doing anything they're not comfortable with. You know, a lot of people come to us because they've had German Shepherds that have since passed away and now they want to volunteer. And then they get attached to like their favorite German Shepherd here at the sanctuary. And then that dog dies and then the trauma's back again. And I've kind of noticed this over and over, and it's like, all right, I get it.
Yeah, it is tough. Me and Patrick actually always say that because him and I were so dedicated to the rescue that we used to volunteer at. We were there every weekend. Didn't matter if it was 5 degrees or, 100 degrees or raining or whatever the case may be. You dressed for it and you went. And we always say, man, we wish we could find some volunteers like us, like how we were. For that rescue. We wish we could find him for our place because it is so few and far between. And to have us both at the same one, and now we're together and, together in rescue. So he does an awesome job. If you've seen the videos and stuff, he is like a dog whisperer with getting dogs to, as a pack, his pack is awesome. And the dogs that have come in, he's just like, well, they're just going to have to get along. And then he just figures it out and it all works out. He has a big alfalfa yard right behind his house where the dogs all, freely roam. So they're amazing videos that he posts of those dogs.
Is he in your area? I think you're in Lafayette? Is that where you are?
Yeah, I'm in Lafayette and he's in Marietta where we live about 10 minutes apart.
Okay.
Right now. Okay. He actually just bought a farm in McGraw. So he will be moving probably next spring once he gets all the construction done with what he needs to do. But he got 50 acres, so it's going to be really great
so you'll be expanding.
Yeah, we'll see. It all depends on what the work schedules are. That's what runs my life, unfortunately.
And so what does that look like for you? Like, what does a typical day in rescue look like for you, and just in your life in general? How do you balance it all?
The dogs pretty much run my schedule. They do.
The dogs balance it.
Yeah. I'm sure it sounds familiar.
Yeah,
I'm up at 5:00 in the morning. And I take care of my own dogs, let them out. I have 3 in my personal pack, plus I have 5 cats. Also, all my cats are rescued. So I feed everybody and let everybody out, take care of my own, let them out, and then come down, take care of Win. This is Win. Let me see if I can get her in camera here.
She's in camera.
This is Win.
Beautiful. How old is she?
She's a year.
How many years? There she goes.
Yeah.
She was saying hello.
So I take care of her. Let her play for at least an hour, throwing the ball for her. She loves playing ball. And I'll take her out for walks. We do a little bit of training every day. And she gets tired probably after an hour of constant ball throwing. But after that, go up and feed my own dogs, feed her when she's rested from her play so we don't get any bloat. And
yes.
And get myself ready for work and go to work for usually at least 10 hours a day. Sometimes it's longer. Come home. I get home about 7:15, 7:30 at night and play with her for an hour after I grab something to eat, and then go back up to the house, watch TV for half hour, 45 minutes. And then I come back down, let her out for her last time, about 10:30, 11 o'clock, and go to bed, start all over the next day.
And it's 7 days a week, isn't it? I mean, aside from like your actual job, it's 7 days a week. And, that is the commitment right there. And I'm not sure, if you have supportive family members and whatnot. I do and I don't. Like, there are some in my family who completely understand, hey, I'm not making it for this family function. I have a dog here I really have to keep my eye on because they're not doing well or whatever. Yep. And then I have some that are, well, that's all you care about. And in a way, I'm like, yep, you're right.
Well,
no apologies here.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you're committed to them, and whatever they need is what you need to do. And it is 7 days a week. I'm up at 5 a.m. because that's what time they want to be up. I'm up at 5 a.m. every morning. You don't get to sleep in. It's the way that it is, Saturdays and Sundays, I get to sit down and have a cup of tea and in my toast at home rather than eating it in my car on my way to work. But
the luxuries of the weekend, right?
Yeah.
And we have cats too. We have 6 rescue cats as well. And our land looks a lot like yours, and somehow we end up with strays and ferals just making their way to our property, and we end up taking care of all of them as well.
Get a drink.
So, if you know now, how am I saying this? I had it written down and okay. So would you do it again, knowing what you know now? Would you start a rescue again, knowing what you know now?
I would.
Yeah,
absolutely. Because I feel like I'm put here to make a difference. And I feel like there has to be people that will stand up for these animals. So for me, it's, I feel like I'm just here to do that. So,
and I'm guessing, since you just gave that response, did you feel pulled to do rescue? Was this something like when you found out about rescue, you were just like, yep, that's my mission right there?
Yeah. How I started with the volunteering was the dogs that I was helping with were not getting outside on a regular basis. So that's kind of what started. I actually started processing their applications and then asked if I could start taking the dogs out from there. And it just was, these dogs need to get out more. They need socialization. They need to see people, different people, and work with them when you can and try to get, more personality traits down for them. There's one dog that they were going to euthanize that me and Patrick were like, no, he's such a good dog. We just met him, but the person that owned it didn't spend time with the dogs, so she didn't really know the personalities of the dogs. So we were like, we got to get this dog out of here before he gets euthanized. And this person I'm still in contact with, and they are amazing. They love the dog. They dug a pond for the dog in their yard, a huge pond. And he got everything you can imagine. He gets a pint of ice cream every week from the local store, and he's just spoiled rotten, and they adore him. So it's just like, know the dogs. When you start volunteering places like that, you get to know the dogs, and you get to know the need, basically, is what drew me to rescue, is seeing how many dogs are in need out there. And I think that a lot of people that aren't in touch with the animal world just have no idea the problem. I mean, it's been a problem forever, but right now it's just out of bounds. It really is.
It is. And in my mind, the problems that were there always are still there. But then we're coming off this COVID fiasco, and people were home and they ran to the shelters and they got dogs and cats to keep them company. And then they started going back to work, and then they didn't have time, and then they sent them back to the shelter, and people are struggling financially and can barely afford to take care of themselves at this point, let alone their dog. I mean, it is overwhelming. And for me, that overwhelm is something I struggle with. Is that something you struggle with in the rescue world?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the problems have just been compounded one after another. And with all of the prices going up with everything, vet care has skyrocketed with the pricing, and people, I mean, it's tough for people financially to afford it. I mean,
right.
Food,
and us as rescues and sanctuaries, it's hard for us. I mean, I think folks need to realize that, and I'm sure you've heard this over the years, and I hear this quite often. Well, why don't you just take one more? Well, why don't, what's one more? Well, it's one more. It's one more mouth to feed. Yeah. It's one more vet bill. It's one more responsibility. And I am one person trying to do what I can. And I've actually gotten a little short-tempered. Maybe it's because I've been doing this so long, and I'll say like, well, why don't you take it? Well, why are you like pressuring me? What are you doing that you can't take this dog? Oh, I have this, I have that, I have this. Well, guess what? Just like you, I have a job. I'm a college student. You know, I have other things too, right?
Yeah.
And so that's something I struggle with. And as I get older, and I recognize now, and again, it's probably because I've been doing rescue for over 2 decades. I have gotten a little short-tempered with some of the responses, or, you know, the way people approach me, and, you know, force, because you're a rescue and you're a sanctuary, and this is what you decided to do. Yes, but I still have to be responsible, and I still have to keep things in balance, right?
Yeah. Patrick posted a really great post the other day about people making us feel bad that we can't help. And so when we can't help, we try to offer any type of suggestion or, you know, whatever we can to try to, hey, you know, contact your local trainer and see if they can help, or, you know, try this training method to see if this helps you do it. And then we get negative responses back because we just won't solve their problem and take their dog. It's like they aren't looking for help. They're looking for you to take their dog. They don't want the response of, here, this will help you keep your dog. They just want you to get rid of the problem. And we were talking about this the other day about how inappropriate it is, you know, and that people are just so hard on us when we're trying to do the right thing and we're trying to help everybody. I mean, I've gone to people's houses locally here that have contacted me and said, hey, I have this problem. And I'm like, okay, how far away are you? I'll drive to you. And I help them, show them kind of some training things to help them get on track. I don't get paid for this. I don't get any money for this. I don't get donations for going to people's houses. It costs me money to go there, time and money. But I do it in order for them to help keep their dog. You know, if they're on their last leg with what's going on with their family situation, you know, it's helpful. But yeah, we get a lot of negative feedback, negative reactions for trying to point people in the right direction when we can't take the dog.
Yep. We've been there as well. Fortunately, though, we have a lot of support. We have a lot more support than that. But just over time, I don't know, over time, like doing one thing I struggle with doing rescue and sanctuary life for so long is I feel like I'm out in this giant like ocean, just being tossed and, you know, around, and I'm looking for like a life raft or something that I could pull myself up on, because the waves just keep coming. And when I say the waves, I feel like it's just a never ending wave of older German Shepherds, in my case, needing a place to stay. And I have very well-intended people on social media that are constantly tagging us to every dog far and wide. And when I tell you, even overseas, like from Hungary, Canada, wherever, and it's like, I can't help these dogs. I can't help them. I mean, I have to try to focus on like what's right here. Although we do take nationally, we always try to focus locally first.
Right.
But it just gets overwhelming after a while. But so that is a struggle. But tell me something that you love about the rescue.
My favorite thing about rescue is placing them in happy homes, seeing them thrive is the reason we do it. You know, we keep in touch with almost everybody that we have adopted to. We tell people when they adopt from us that we will stalk them because we love to see how our dogs are doing. But 99% of people that adopt from us keep in touch with us, and we love it because we love to see the dogs out on the beach and out traveling. You know, one dog that I just recently adopted out Her name was Suki. She was found tied to a fence in our local city here in Syracuse, with a phone charger cord, and it was winter. She sat there for 10 hours because the DCO wouldn't go pick her up. And then because she needs permission to go pick up a dog. So when she got done with her shift, she actually went in her own personal car and picked the dog up and brought her to the SPCA, which is where we took her from. And she was just a love. Like there's certain ones you get attached to, as you would know, you know, there's certain ones that are just pull on your heartstrings more than the others. And she was hard for me to let go, that's another thing that people say is, how do you let them go after they've been with you for so long? I said, because it helps me help the next one. Not that I'm not upset that they go. I cry like crazy when they all go, but
I can understand that. You ugly cry.
She was in a motorhome on her way to Florida the last time I checked, so she's living the life, and she goes on what they call secret missions to go get ice cream. So they do well, and that's what I love about it, is to see them thriving in the homes and knowing that we place them properly. That's what's best for us.
Yes. And it is, and it's a beautiful thing. And you're right. It does hurt. It does hurt to invest in them and then let them go. But like you said, you're letting them go so you can help the next one who's really in a bad way and needs somewhere to go. And then they find their happily ever after. And can you tell us a little bit about Wynn? Is she going to be looking for her happily ever after anytime soon?
She will. She needs some work. So we don't put them up for adoption until we feel that they're ready to be up for adoption. We post videos of her, all the time so people can see her progress and stuff like that. But she was owned by a younger girl, college age girl, and kept in a kennel a lot of her life. She was rehomed. And she slipped her collar within an hour of being at the new home. She was on the run for a week straight. And when, I don't know, people know that when dogs kind of go on the run, even after a day, they can become feral. They won't come even to their owner sometimes. It's just a survival instinct that they have. So she was trying to be captured. And another thing is, people chase lost dogs, and lost dogs will run every time. They don't like to be chased. If you see a dog and you can crouch down and they'll come to you, great, but don't ever chase a dog, because it just puts them farther off of their place where they're trying to stay around. But long story short, my friend Matt is a dog trapper. So he goes around locally and catches lost dogs for people, or dogs that have just been dumped, or whatever the case may be. So she was out for a week before he was able to trap her. And when he trapped her, he asked if I would take her, because the person that she was then rehomed to didn't want anything to do with her after she was lost. So I took her in. She was exhausted. Thankfully, she has really taken to my husband and I. And she's really fearful of everybody else. So she needs to work on that. But she was on the run for a week, like in a swampy area. She had over 70 ticks on her that, like I said, thankfully she was exhausted, because she's a ball of energy. All the other times she just lay and let me get them all off her. And she is doing great now as far as that's concerned. She's negative for any tick disease. And good. She just needs to work on her fearfulness. And we've got actually training starting for her on Sunday, some reactive training to try to get her used to more people, things, and go from there. So once she gets to the point where she's adoptable, we will post her. But we always post videos of her progress and how she's doing, and just playing ball and stuff.
I've seen her. I didn't know who she was, but I have seen her. So, well, that's fantastic. She's an absolutely beautiful dog, and I'm glad she's with you. And I do hope that she gets to the point then when she is able to go to her happily ever after as well. And it sounds like she's on the right path. So that's fantastic. So Megan, I'm curious if someone was to come to you today and say, I want to start a rescue, maybe not a German Shepherd rescue, but a rescue in general. What advice would you give them? What would you say to them?
I would just tell them about the amount of time that you have to put in, the commitment and the time, it just takes a lot of time. The money, the economy right now is definitely on a decline. We are 501c3, so we do all of our work based on donation. And with money being so tight for everybody right now, it obviously slows down the donations as well. So, we aren't getting as much as we used to get in order to care for the dogs. And you got to keep some in your bank account in case there is any emergencies, to take care of. So Stuff like that. You just have to take into consideration that it does take a ton of time, a ton of work, and, can be heartbreaking at times. And, there's times of joy that are, just as good. But there's, like you and I just talked about, as far as people surrendering dogs. I mean, it's gut wrenching. Some days emotionally, it's just draining that you can't help them all.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree with that wholeheartedly. And one thing I would add to all of what you just said, which is great advice, is you really do have to take care of yourself as well. Yeah. Because if you don't take care of yourself, both physically and mentally and emotionally, you're of no service to who you're trying to serve. So, it definitely behooves all of us to take some time to sit down and have our toast at the table with our tea and just tune everything out, even if it is for just a half hour a day or something along those lines. So that's what I would add. Well, this has been great. And I'm so glad we finally got this podcast stuff straightened out.
Well, it's great to meet you too.
It really is. Yeah.
Your videos, and you've seen mine, but we've never actually really chatted.
No, and it is nice. And I'd like to keep in touch. I really would. I have to laugh because you said you're outside of Syracuse, and we're in the lake region of the Poconos. So we're only about a half hour away from the border of New York, and our weather and all that is Binghamton weather and all that. So I have a feeling you and I end up with a lot of the same winters.
Oh yeah, that's another thing to talk about when people are opening things like this. You're outside all the time.
You are outside come hell or high water, and I have a feeling you get 3 foot of heavy wet snow like we do from Erie and Ontario, and and I'm sure you've seen the videos where my husband, his name is Ken, but I just refer to him as Mr. Woody's Place, and he's out there with the snowblower trying to make paths for the dogs, right? Yeah. And your winter, like ours, is probably, April through or November through April a lot of the years.
Yeah, it's another part of it, and it's all, it's all part of it. You got to be out here no matter what it is, pouring rain, whatever. I'm out in a raincoat and boots, and we got a raincoat for wind too. Yeah. So her and I walk in our raincoat, bright yellow raincoats down the road, and in the rain, and
whatever it takes. Yeah, we again, that's another thing I get questions about. Oh, I love the Poconos. I'd love to live in the Poconos. And I always say, well, I'm in the lake region of the Poconos. It's not really like the touristy part here. We're more of an agricultural rural area. And they're like, oh, I'd love to live there. I'm like, well, I hope you like rain and snow, because that's what you're going to get here. Yeah. Deal with it. Anyway, all right. So where can people, if they want to find out more about your organization, German Shepherd Rescue, Other Finger Lakes, where can they find you online?
We have a website, which is gsrfingerlakes.org. And then we are also on Facebook, German Shepherd Rescue of the Finger Lakes on Facebook. Patrick does TikToks every once in a while. So we are on TikTok as well. We haven't made it to Instagram or any of the other platforms yet, but he does some really great videos with the dogs. He does a lot of humorous stuff. He has really good witty stuff that he posts all the time. So if you see stuff on there that's witty, it's Patrick. It's not me. He does great videos of all the dogs out there.
I love the videos. Yeah. I follow along as well. All right. Well, I'm going to be sure to include that information in the show notes when this podcast airs, which should be in about 2 weeks.
Okay.
And I'm going to make sure I have all of your information in there. This way people can find you and see what dogs you have available for adoption. Now, do you have like an adoption radius? How does that work?
We adopt within like 5 or 6 hours of our place. We actually have been contacted for people outside of that area, but we like to be able to retrieve our dogs if we have to. That's the reason for the radius. We have come across with the other rescue of people adopting dogs and being, farther away, and then they have a problem with the dog and then they don't want to bring the dog back. So it's on our contract that if there's any issues with the dog, that the dog comes back to us. We're responsible for the dog. We do not want the dog to go back in a shelter situation, which it's just terrible for German Shepherds to be in those type of situations. They literally will just shut right down. So we always want to protect our dogs, whether it's adopted 6 months ago or 4 years ago, we will take the dog back.
I love hearing that. I love that.
Yeah. So we like to just be able to have it within a reasonable driving distance for us to go pick up the dog. If I've got to go to drive 6 hours to pick up a dog and then drive 6 hours home, Yeah. So that's the reason for our radius.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Well, this has been great. Hopefully we can have you on again in the future down the road and check in on Wynn and see how she's doing and what's going on there. But thank you so much. I really appreciate this.
Yeah. Next time maybe we can get Patrick involved.
That would be great. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Bye.